Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with me.
And me.
Today we're going to be looking at ways to build positivity into your life. And we're taking inspiration from this episode of Everyday Inspiration with Emma and Jake.
Yeah, good episode.
Yeah, they had some really good advice, I thought.
I think what's interesting about this topic is we often hear about the benefits of positivity.
Right.
But I think it's helpful to actually look at the science behind it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about feeling good. You know, there's research that shows that a more positive mindset can actually lead to, like, tangible benefits.
Yeah.
You know, things like increased energy,
Yeah.
lower stress levels, even a stronger immune system.
I knew it was good for you, but I didn't realize it was, like, actually good for your physical health.
Yeah, it's amazing how
That's really interesting.
interconnected our minds and bodies are.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Emma and Jake talked about that really stood out to me was this idea of a ripple effect.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever noticed, like, how...
Someone's positivity or negativity can kind of impact the people around them.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Like, if you're around somebody who's really upbeat, it kind of
Yeah.
makes you feel better. And then the opposite, if someone's complaining all the time,
Exactly.
it kind of brings you down.
Yeah. And this isn't to say that we should, like, you know, pretend to be happy all the time or deny negative emotions. You know, life throws curveballs, and it's important to acknowledge those feelings.
It's not about being like a Pollyanna and pretending everything's perfect.
Right.
But it's about having tools to kind of deal with those challenges in a better way.
Having those strategies that allow you to approach life's ups and downs with more of a sense of hope and resilience.
So speaking of strategies, Emma shared her morning routine, and it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
She said she takes a few minutes every morning just to identify 3 things she's grateful for.
I know it sounds simple, but don't underestimate the power of gratitude. Like, they've actually done studies and found that a regular gratitude practice can actually rewire your brain.
Wow.
To focus on the positive.
That's pretty cool.
So, you know, it can lead to things like lower stress, better sleep, even improved relationships.
You know, I've tried to do gratitude journaling in the past,
Yeah.
but I was never very consistent with it.
I think that's the thing with any of these practices, is it's about consistency.
Yeah.
You know, creating these small, sustainable habits that you can kind of weave into your daily life.
Well, Jake talked about morning routines too.
Yeah.
But his was more about getting a little quiet time or doing some stretching, even just for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He said even those small things can make a difference.
What I find fascinating about this is that it doesn't have to be anything elaborate or, you know, Instagram worthy.
Yeah.
It's just about finding those little things that help you feel grounded.
Right.
And set a positive tone.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like sometimes there's so much pressure to have this like perfect morning routine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, I didn't meditate for an hour and do yoga before I looked at my phone. Like, I've failed.
Right. It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
Yeah, I like that.
Finding what works for you and what you can actually do consistently.
Absolutely. So another thing they talked about was being mindful of negativity. Like reducing your exposure to news or social media.
Yeah.
You know, that can kind of bring you down.
It's so easy to get caught up in that cycle.
I know I'm totally guilty of doom scrolling.
But did you ever notice how, like, bad news tends to grab our attention more than good news?
I guess so.
Well, there's actually something called negativity bias.
Okay.
Which is our brain's kind of natural tendency to focus on threats and potential dangers.
Makes sense.
It's a survival mechanism.
Right.
But in today's world where we're just constantly bombarded with information, it can lead to, you know, feeling overwhelmed and anxious.
So it's kind of like we're giving our minds a break from that.
Yeah.
When we reduce that.
Exactly. Create space for us to focus on, you know, the positive things in life.
Well, that leads right into their next tip, which was choosing positive content.
Yes.
Like watching inspiring videos or listening to uplifting podcasts.
You're taking control of your emotional diet.
Okay.
You know, just like you make choices about the food you eat to nourish your body.
Right.
You can make choices about the content you consume to nourish your mind.
That's a good way to put it.
What you feed your mind is ultimately going to shape your thoughts, emotions, even your behaviors.
So we've talked about setting a positive tone for the day, being mindful of what we consume. But what about when things go wrong?
Yeah.
Which they inevitably do.
Right.
How do we handle those negative moments in a positive way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something both Emma and Jake addressed.
Okay.
Challenges are part of life.
Right.
Denying them isn't going to make them go away.
Right.
So it's about learning how to respond to them in a way that allows you to move forward.
Yeah.
Without getting bogged down in negativity.
So it's not that the bad things don't happen, it's how we react to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of the techniques that Jake talked about was this idea of reframing.
Uh-huh.
And so, when something negative happens,
yeah,
he tries to find a silver lining or a lesson learned.
It's kind of like when life gives you lemons make lemonade.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's more than just a cute saying.
Right.
It's a powerful cognitive tool.
Okay.
Reframing allows you to shift your perspective on a situation and see it in a new light.
So instead of focusing on all the negative stuff, we can try to focus on what we can learn from it.
And sometimes reframing can even involve finding humor.
Oh, yeah.
In the midst of adversity.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Absolutely. Humor can be a powerful coping mechanism.
Right.
But it's important to note that reframing isn't about denying or minimizing those negative emotions. Mm. It's about acknowledging them while also choosing to focus on the aspects of the situation that are within your control.
So it's kind of that balanced approach.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the negative, but focus on the positive.
Exactly. What about Emma?
Yeah.
What does she do?
What's her strategy?
Yeah, she talked about emotional awareness.
Okay.
So when she's feeling negative emotions, she acknowledges them. Uh-huh. But she doesn't let them take over her whole day.
Right.
She might take a few deep breaths or go for a quick walk to clear her head.
I need to work on that.
It's a common struggle.
Yeah.
But even those simple practices, like taking a few deep breaths or going for a walk, can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Because you're tapping into the power of mindfulness.
Right.
You're helping to create that space between your emotions and your reactions.
So you're not just reacting.
Exactly. It's like pressing the reset button on your emotional state.
And it's like, when people tell you to take a deep breath when you're angry or upset.
It sounds cliche, but there's actually a physiological reason why it works.
Okay.
It helps regulate your nervous system. It calms your stress response.
I'm going to try to remember to breathe more.
Yeah.
So we've covered setting a positive tone, being mindful of negativity, choosing positive content, dealing with those negative moments. Was there anything else that Emma and Jake recommended?
They ended their episode with a challenge.
Oh, okay. A challenge. I like a challenge.
I think it's one that we can all benefit from.
Okay.
They suggested writing down one thing each day that made you smile.
Okay.
And you do this for a week, and by the end of the week, you have this whole list of happy moments.
I love that.
That you can look back on.
It's so simple.
It is simple.
But I can see how that would really help.
You're actively training yourself to notice and appreciate those little joys throughout the day.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And it reinforces their point that positivity is built through these consistent small choices.
Right.
It's not about making some grand sweeping life change.
Right.
It's about those little shifts in your daily routines and mindset.
I'm taking the challenge. I'm starting my smile list today.
Awesome.
But before we all go run off and do that,
yeah.
What's the biggest takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing to remember is that cultivating positivity is an ongoing journey.
Okay.
It's not a destination.
Right.
There will be good days and bad days.
Yeah.
But the key is to keep practicing those habits and techniques that bring more joy and gratitude and resilience into your life.
So it's about embracing those ups and downs.
Yes.
And choosing to approach them with a more positive
Exactly. And remembering that even when things are tough, you have the power to choose how you respond.
I think Emma and Jake's challenge really highlights that.
Yeah.
By actively seeking out those things that make us smile.
We're training our brains to focus on the positive.
It's like building a muscle.
Oh, I like that.
The more we practice choosing positivity, the stronger that muscle becomes, the easier it is to bounce back from challenges.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
What small act of positivity could you commit to today to create that ripple effect
I love that.
we were talking about?
That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah.
Because it really highlights the fact that we all have the ability to make a positive impact on ourselves and those around us.
Even through small actions.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that positivity is a choice we can make every day, and those small choices can create a ripple effect of good vibes.
I love that.
But we'll save the rest of that conversation for part 2.
Yes.
Be sure to join us as we continue our deep dive into cultivating positivity.
Sounds good. Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about how positivity isn't just about feeling good. It can actually benefit our mental and physical health.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about those times when it feels really hard to be positive.
Uh-huh.
Like when we're going through something tough or dealing with a lot of stress.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about choosing positivity when everything's going well.
Right.
But what about those times when...
Yeah, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly. How do we stay positive when we're facing challenges? Well, I think, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that it's okay to not feel positive all the time.
Okay.
In fact, trying to force positivity when you're really struggling can actually be counterproductive.
Okay, so...
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound.
Yeah.
You know, it might cover it up temporarily,
Right.
but it doesn't actually address the underlying issue.
So it's more about letting ourselves feel those emotions,
Yeah,
but not letting them consume us.
that's a great way to put it. It's about finding that balance between acknowledging the negative and choosing to focus on the positive. One way to do that is through practicing acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
Like accepting that things are hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're going through a challenging time, it's easy to get caught up in resistance, wishing things were different.
Right.
But resisting what is only creates more suffering.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like the situation,
Right.
but it means acknowledging it without judgment and allowing yourself to feel those emotions.
Okay, so if you're constantly fighting against it's like you're just adding more stress
Exactly.
to the situation.
Yeah, you're just creating more suffering for yourself.
But how does acceptance lead to positivity?
Well, when you accept the reality of a situation, it frees up your energy to focus on what you can control.
Okay.
So instead of wasting energy on, wishing things were different,
Right.
you can channel that energy into finding solutions or seeking support or taking care of yourself.
It's like that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Yes, exactly. The courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference.
It's about recognizing that you always have a choice in how you respond to a situation, even if you can't control the situation itself.
And Jake had a technique for that, right?
He did.
It was reframing.
Yes, reframe.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, one approach is to ask yourself, what's one thing I can learn from this experience?
Okay.
It could be a lesson about yourself, about others,
Right.
about life in general.
So even if the situation is negative, there might be a positive takeaway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can also ask yourself,
Okay.
what's one thing I can be grateful for in this moment, even though things are tough?
Right.
It might be something as simple as having a roof over your head,
Yeah.
food on the table, people who care about you.
It's a good reminder that there are things to appreciate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes reframing can even involve finding humor in this situation.
Yeah.
Laughter is a powerful antidote to stress and negativity.
I've definitely found that to be true. Sometimes you just gotta laugh
Yeah.
at the absurdity of it all.
Absolutely. And it can help you to gain some perspective.
Right.
When you can laugh at yourself or a difficult situation,
Yeah.
it's a sign that you're not letting it control you.
You're taking back your power.
Exactly. And speaking of taking back your power, another important aspect of cultivating positivity is self-care.
Self-care. That's like the buzzword these days.
It is, but what does it actually look like?
Yeah.
It's about prioritizing your well-being,
Okay.
both physically and mentally. It's about doing those things that nourish your mind, body, and soul.
Right. So it's not just about bubble baths and face masks.
Right. It's about making those conscious choices
Yeah.
to support your overall well-being.
It could be getting enough sleep, eating healthy, moving your body, being in nature.
Yes, connecting with loved ones,
Right.
engaging in activities that bring you joy.
But I think that's where people get tripped up when they're stressed. They put their own needs last.
It's a common pattern, but it's ultimately self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
When you neglect your own needs, you're depleting your energy reserves. And that makes it even harder to cope with the challenges and maintain a positive outlook.
So self-care is really self-preservation.
I love that way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right. You got to fill your cup first.
You have to fill your own cup first.
And that ties back into the ripple effect.
Exactly.
When we take care of ourselves, we can better take care of others.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Right.
And remember, self-care doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming.
Right.
It's about finding those small, sustainable ways
Yeah.
to incorporate more nourishment and joy into your life.
I'm seeing a theme here. Consistency. Small steps. Finding what works for you.
Yes.
It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
You got it, and it's about being patient with yourself. Cultivating positivity is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be times when you feel like you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's like learning any new skill.
Exactly.
It takes time and effort.
And just like with any skill, there will be times when you feel discouraged or frustrated.
Right.
The key is to just keep going.
So what's one practical step our listeners can take?
Well, I would suggest starting with that smile list challenge that we talked about earlier.
Right. Writing down one thing each day that made you smile.
Yes, it's such a simple yet powerful practice. It helps you to become more aware of those little joys that we often take for granted.
Right.
And it trains your brain to focus on the positive.
We're building our positivity muscles one smile at a time.
I love it.
Okay, so I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
I agree.
But before we go,
Yes.
I just want to remind our listeners that we will be back for part 3.
Yes, we will.
To continue our exploration of cultivating positivity.
More strategies and techniques.
So be sure to tune in.
Yes.
So, we've talked about a lot of different ways to kind of cultivate positivity, but it seems like so much of it really comes down to mindset.
It really does.
Like, we actually have the power to choose how we see the world and react to things.
They've hit the nail on the head. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us,
Right.
we can control how we respond.
Right.
And that choice, that shift in perspective, can make all the difference.
But does that mean if we can train ourselves to be more positive, we'll never feel negative emotions again?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember that cultivating positivity doesn't mean,
Right.
living in this constant state of bliss or denying negative emotions.
So it's not about ignoring those feelings?
Not at all. Actually trying to suppress negative emotions can backfire.
Okay.
And make them even stronger.
How
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Ah.
You can keep it down there for a little while.
Right.
Eventually, it's going to pop back up.
With even more force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the healthy way to deal with negative emotions?
Okay.
It's about allowing yourself to feel them fully without judgment.
Okay.
Acknowledge them, explore where they're coming from, and then let them go.
So we have to process them in order to move through them.
Exactly. And one way to process those emotions is through journaling.
Journaling.
Writing down your thoughts and feelings can be incredibly therapeutic.
Okay.
It allows you to get those emotions out of your head and onto paper,
Right.
which can help you to gain some clarity and perspective.
So journaling can be a tool for understanding those negative emotions,
Yeah,
but also for cultivating positive ones.
absolutely. It can
Nice.
help you to identify patterns in your thinking, challenge negative thoughts, focus on the things you're grateful for.
What about, talking to someone you trust?
Yes, connecting with others is so important for emotional well-being. Talking to someone you trust can give you support, validation, a different perspective. Can also help you to feel less alone.
It's like a problem shared is a problem halved or something.
Exactly. And sometimes just talking about what you're going through can help you to release some of that pent-up energy and emotion.
So we've got acceptance, reframing, journaling, connecting with others. Are there any other strategies that can help us?
One practice that can be really powerful is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that word is everywhere these days.
I know it is, but what does it actually mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Okay.
It's about noticing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without getting swept away by them.
So being present.
Exactly. And it can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths and noticing the sensations of your breath.
Okay.
Or paying attention to the sights and sounds and smells around you.
So if I'm super stressed, I can just take a minute to just,
Be present in my body and my surroundings.
Exactly. And the more you practice mindfulness, the better you become at observing your thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them.
Okay.
You start to develop this sense of space between you and your thoughts, which gives you more choice in how you respond to them.
I mean, it sounds great, but can something as simple as paying attention to your breath really make a difference?
I know it sounds too simple to be effective,
Yeah.
but research has actually shown that mindfulness can have a profound impact on our mental and emotional well-being.
Wow.
It can reduce stress, improve focus, increase self-awareness, boost our overall sense of happiness and contentment.
I mean, if you're saying the research backs it up,
It does.
I guess I'm willing to try it, but like, where do I start?
Start small. Even just a few minutes a day can make a difference.
Okay.
You can find guided meditations online or through apps, or you can simply practice mindful breathing on your own.
What about when I'm just like in a funk and I can't seem to shake it? Well, sometimes the best thing you can do is just shift your focus.
Okay.
Engage in an activity that brings you joy. Listen to some upbeat music. Watch a funny movie. Spend time with loved ones. Do something kind for someone else.
So we're basically trying to focus on positive things.
Exactly. And remember, even small acts of kindness can have a ripple effect. Not only on the recipient, but also on yourself.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive on positivity, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important message is that positivity is a choice. And it's a practice.
Okay.
It's not about being happy all the time.
Right.
But it's about approaching life's challenges with a sense of hope and resilience.
Yeah.
And a willingness to focus on the good.
And it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. There will be ups and downs. But the more you practice these strategies, the easier it will become to choose positivity.
So those small actions can really add up.
They really can.
To a more positive life.
And don't forget the power of those small, consistent actions.
Right. Like Emma and Jake said, notice what makes you smile. Be grateful, practice mindfulness, connect with others, and take care of yourself.
And remember, you have the power to choose the bright side.
That's a wrap on this deep dive into cultivating positivity.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.